WWE has announced that John Cena's final match will, of course, take place on December 13th, Saturday night's main event from the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. Yours truly will be there in Washington, D.C. to witness history. But what we learned last week is there will be a 16-person tournament across members from Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, NXT, and even people that don't even work here, which no, sadly, does not mean Adam Copeland, aka Edge, though it should. He really should be John Cena's last opponent. It's probably going to include people, I believe, from TNA. I don't think AAA is going to get involved with this. I think it could be people in John Cena's past, or maybe the bright future of TNA, like a Joe Hendry, maybe a Nick Nemeth, maybe a Matt Cardona, etc. But in the promo package that aired, John Cena said it will be some of his fiercest rivals in WWE, including, of course, The Miz, Solo Sikoa, Sheamus, and Rusev, and other superstars that he's never had the privilege to go one-on-one with, including Bronson Reed, LA Knight, Penta, Drew McIntyre. So there's a lot of speculation as to how this tournament's going to play out. We know the first two tournament matches that are taking place on Monday Night Raw this week will be between Damian Priest and Rusev, as well as Sheamus and Shinsuke Nakamura. So, what I decided to do is an exercise that many people have been doing over the past couple days that are wrestling fans, and that is to fantasy book this last time is now tournament. Who is going to be the man who earns the opportunity to face John Cena in his last match? Now, it's important to note as part of that video package I mentioned, the wrestlers that were under the name of John Cena's greatest rivals. Rusev, we all remember the United States Championship battles they had in 2015. Sheamus, we all remember the TLC match at TLC 2009, the tables match, where he won the WWE Championship. Solo Sikoa, we all remember Solo Samoan spiking John Cena and then John Cena owning him on the mic in 2023, as well as The Miz. We all know The Miz has been lobbying for one last John Cena encounter. Then, under superstars he's never gone one-on-one with, that included Penta, Bronson Reed, L.A. Knight, who they teamed together but have never gone one-on-one with, as well as Drew McIntyre, who I cannot believe in John Cena's history has not gone one-on-one with the Scottish Warrior. So there's going to be 16 um, participants, and we know already that Damian Priest from SmackDown takes on Rusev from Raw, and Sheamus from Raw takes on Shinsuke Nakamura from SmackDown this upcoming Raw when the tournament starts from John Cena's hometown in Boston, Massachusetts. The one superstar that was in the initial graphic that I am not putting in the tournament is Dominic Mysterio. The reason for this is because Dominic Mysterio, the current AAA and Intercontinental Champion, his hometown, as we know, is San Diego, California. War Games this year for Survivor Series taking place in San Diego. The one championship John Cena has not won in his illustrious career to become a Grand Slam champion is the Intercontinental Champion. Yes, I do think John Cena versus Dirty Dom does take place at Petco Park for War Games. I actually think it's the wrong decision. I think you could get away with doing Dom versus Ray at Petco Park in San Diego, maybe for the AAA championship, not the Intercontinental Championship. Maybe you do a mask versus stipulation there and give Dom Rey Mysterio's mask, and that's how you get Dom over as a babyface. And I think you actually do the Intercontinental Championship match between Dom and Cena this coming Monday in Boston. I will be shocked if there is not an impromptu main event match for John Cena in Boston. Originally, we were thinking before the Seth Rollins injury, what if they did John Cena versus Seth Rollins on this Monday Night Raw in Boston? It leads to the War Games encounter. I do think John Cena, you know, does need to be involved in the War Games match because of the fact that he's never been in one. And again, he wasn't around in 2022 or 2023 or 2024 at the time of War Games. I know they have not done a lot of extreme matches. John Cena's matches have mostly been either tag team matches or singles matches throughout his run to protect him so he doesn't get injured. I understand there's a risk of being inside a steel cage a couple weeks before your final match ever, and you want it to be the biggest possible. Donald Trump may be there, Vince McMahon may be there. I get it, but I think there's a scenario where John Cena could enter War Games, do his greatest hits, and not take a lot of bumps in it to be a lot of fun. So here we go. In the first matches of this tournament, we do now have, of course, Damian Priest versus Rusev, as well as Sheamus versus Shinsuke Nakamura on Monday Night Raw. My winners of these two matches are Rusev and Sheamus. And there's a lot of interference that could go down in these matches. Obviously, Aleister Black could cost Damian Priest. You have Penta or Dom even who could cost Rusev. You have the MFTs over on SmackDown who could cost Shinsuke Nakamura the match. But I think Sheamus and Rusev and them eventually renewing that rivalry makes sense in this tournament. Then we'll go to the next night on NXT, which is November 11th. And in that encounter, I think you're going to have the first NXT representative on this tournament. And for NXT, I'm picking the two most popular wrestlers that I think could get some main roster exposure that have already been a little bit up on the main roster. And that is, of course, Trick Williams, Whoop That Trick, as well as Javon Evans. I think those are your two NXT representatives. Now, who will they face? I don't think you're going to put, maybe an LA Knight or somebody like that, or even a Carmelo Hayes, somebody who has had NXT experience down in NXT for these matches. I do think that this is where you use the TNA partnership with NXT. And as I already mentioned, I think Trick Williams will be the representative from NXT. Again, as I said at the top, there's a lot of speculation as to who could be the representative from TNA. Is it going to be Joe Hendry, who, spoiler alert, I do have in this tournament, but not for this match? I think you use the veteranness of Jeff Hardy, the charismatic enigma, for a dream potential match to go one on one with John Cena because it's a match that we all want to see one more time. I think you have Jeff Hardy face off against Trick Williams. I also think there would not be a lot of heat on a guy like Jeff Hardy as opposed to maybe a Nick Memeth or Matt Cardona for defeating Trick Williams. So I have Jeff Hardy going over Trick Williams. Now, to finish off, that would be on the November 14th episode of SmackDown. We're going to have two more qualifying matches. That will be Penta from Monday Night Raw versus Gunther as well from Monday Night Raw. So we're going to have two Raw superstars competing, going one on one on the blue brand. I think this is a dream matchup. You will announce the return of Gunther beforehand. This is a matchup that in WWE in 2025, coming into the year, we would have never expected. And I think Penta's been very well protected in WWE. If there's one guy he could lose clean to, it is the ring general. Then there's a lot of speculation about, oh my God, The Miz and Carmelo Hayes, are they going to face off in this tournament? This is where you get the rivalry started. I'm not the biggest fan of starting rivalries in tournaments. I think it's good to continue an ongoing rivalry for years in tournaments or do a callback. I think that Carmelo Hayes and The Miz cost each other their matches in the tournament. So I have a rivalry renewed on SmackDown between The Miz and Raw's LA Knight. We know they had those two tremendous battles, and LA Knight was even the special guest referee, I believe, in a match between John Cena and, for some reason, I'm forgetting Cena's partner. It may have even been LA Knight against Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. I believe it was at Fastlane 2023. So we can connect the dots there. LA Knight goes over The Miz. Then the following week on Raw, You have Carmelo Hayes facing off against Big Brunson Reed, which where the Miz distracts Carmelo Hayes after he gets some offense in on Brunson Reed, but Brunson Reed moves on. As well as we go back to the Bloodline Bounty Hunter storyline. Again, I think the MFTs could cost Shinsuke Nakamura his match against Sheamus. What if Nakamura returns the favor and costs Solo Sikoa his first round battle and a matchup with Drew McIntyre, who still cannot stand any member of the Bloodline, no matter if they're babyface or heel? Solo goes down in the first round. Drew McIntyre advances. So at this point, we have Rusev, Sheamus, Jeff Hardy. Okay. Rusev, Sheamus from Raw, Jeff Hardy from NXT. We have Gunther from Raw. We have LA Knight from Raw. We have Bronson Reed from Raw. We have Drew McIntyre from SmackDown. So we have five Raw superstars, one SmackDown superstar, one outside WWE superstar, and the final match of the first round, we have Javon Evans from NXT taking on the man that when you say his name, he appears, Joe Hendry, who got the rub against Randy Orton at WrestleMania. And again, I think if there's one guy that can knock off Javon Evans and not be punished for it, it would be Joe Hendry. So I have five Raw superstars, a single SmackDown superstar, and two TNA superstars advancing in this tournament. So let's go to the semifinals. They begin with one match on the 11-14 episode of SmackDown, and that match is between Bronson Reed and Drew McIntyre. And the reason why I set this match up is because I don't know yet if Cody Rhodes at this point is going to be a part of the War Games match with the Vision and CM Punk. It feels like Cody and Drew McIntyre are sort of doing their own thing. I don't see Drew McIntyre being recruited to the Vision for War Games at this point, like I did a little bit earlier. And again, I think Bronson Reed has somewhat of a connection to the Bloodline with the way he teamed up with Solo Sikoa. Um, you know, back last year in War Games, I think that there is a scenario here where the Vision is all distracted by maybe the likes of LA Knight, Jimmy Uso, Jay Uso, and all that. And Drew McIntyre just takes advantage of the distraction. This is a rare heel versus heel, two big bears. Drew McIntyre does not care who he has to go through to win this match. He does so, and it advances to that. I also think there's a scenario where, like, if Damian Priest were to defeat Rusev, you could do Priest and Gunther, and you could do Sheamus and Drew McIntyre renewing those rivalries. But I have McIntyre going over Bronson Reed. Then I have the renew of other rivalries. Sheamus and Rusev getting one last battle. We know they faced off at Clash in Paris in that old-fashioned Donnybrook street fight. They battle once again. Sheamus goes over the Bulgarian Brute here and advances to the final four. LA Knight then will take on Gunther. And again, this is where LA Knight, he may have gotten past The Miz, but this is a guy that if he's going to lose clean and there could be interference, he's been getting involved in the Vision's business. But if he's going to lose clean, it's going to be to a guy as strong and as vicious as the Ring General Gunther. So I have Gunther advancing and I have Sheamus advancing from Monday Night Raw. Then, and I also have Drew McIntyre advancing from Friday Night SmackDown. So the final semifinal match will take place on the 18th of NXT between two TNA superstars, Jeff Hardy and Joe Hendry. And I know a lot of people would want to see Joe Hendry win. I get it. I think it'd be good for him. But again, I think Jeff Hardy is such an over babyface, and it's a match that people want to see Jeff Hardy versus John Cena. I think you could tell more stories with Jeff Hardy, whether he gets in a dream match with Drew McIntyre or a dream match with Gunther. I think Jeff Hardy goes over here with the Swanton Bomb, and Jeff Hardy represents TNA in the Final Four. So my Final Four participants for who will face John Cena in his last match are Jeff Hardy and Drew McIntyre, who will wrestle in the semifinal on the 11/21 episode of SmackDown. That's how you get Jeff Hardy back introduced to the main roster audience. That's how you eventually get the Hardys back on the main roster. Is you bring Jeff Hardy back. And again, because Drew McIntyre is a SmackDown superstar, I'd rather have that match take place on SmackDown. Where on Raw, then you can have the renew of the great rivalry of Gunther and Sheamus. And that will be your final matches. So I have Drew McIntyre going over Jeff Hardy. I think it's a great effort by Jeff Hardy, but Drew McIntyre now, who's already gone through Solo Sikoa, he will go through Bronson Reed. Now he goes through the legend in Jeff Hardy to get him to this final match with the ring general Gunther, who does put down Sheamus. Sheamus had to go through Shinsuke Nakamura. He had to go through his old rival in Rusev. He gives a great effort against Gunther. It's sort of the renew of his career again to reignite that rivalry, but it's just not meant to be. And so at Survivor Series, I think the finals will be a match that took place at SummerSlam 2023 for the Intercontinental Championship between Gunther and Drew McIntyre. And this is where Drew McIntyre can lose. Again, he can lose clean. There does not have to be any interference here. Gunther, the run he would go on in this tournament, defeating Penta in the first round, defeating LA Knight in the second round, defeating Sheamus. All of these guys that have either credibility or have been former world champions or are very popular and over with the WWE Universe. To get to Drew McIntyre, a guy who's been hunting this opportunity to get back on track after losing to Cody Rhodes the way he did at Saturday night's main event, but the ring general, who we have not seen since losing the World Heavyweight Championship to CM Punk at SummerSlam, this is where he gets on that redemption arc because there's really no other place to go with Gunther. I think the issue with making Gunther such a dominant human being is without a championship, there's nowhere really else for Gunther to really go in WWE. So that's why I have Gunther winning this tournament, beating John Cena putting over Gunther as this monster heel on his way out. Gunther not only wins the Intercontinental Championship and Saturday Night's main event, he not only retires John Cena, but he also retired Bill Old Man Goldberg. And we know Gunther has a lot of great respect for this sport, but he's not going to tolerate John Cena's hat, his shirt, his armbands, all the fruity pebbles. Gunther does not care about John Cena retiring. Gunther does not care about the fact that John Cena is this living legend that the WWE universe loves. Gunther only cares about one thing, and that one thing is winning. I think the two obvious winners of this tournament should be a heel in Gunther or Drew McIntyre. I think they should both go over in the final match. I do expect John Cena to go out on his back. Now, going into the year, I think we all talked about, could Randy Orton beat John Cena's final opponent? Could it be CM Punk? Could it be a guy like Braun Breaker? But remember, the reason why John Cena lost to Brock Lesnar at WrestlePalooza is because Brock Lesnar is just this unstoppable beast that John Cena cannot get by. I think if you want to build Gunther to be the next guy, right? Gunther is the guy after Brock Lesnar, right? Gunther retired Goldberg and John Cena the way Brock Lesnar broke The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania 30. That did get Brock Lesnar to a new level. That turned Brock Lesnar into Suplex City. Brock Lesnar. I think retiring John Cena and Goldberg in the same year will bring Gunther to this heel level where you could put Gunther in the ring with anybody and he is a legitimate machine. And the interesting thing here to me is you could have Gunther hold on to that Intercontinental Championship for a year plus again. There is a SummerSlam in Minneapolis 2026, which I think will be the last match of Brock Lesnar's career. My thought is Brock Lesnar, he may enter in war games against the Vision, but eventually there's going to be some sort of tension. And I think at WrestleMania, it could lead to Brock Lesnar versus Braun Breaker. And that leads to Braun Breaker becoming the first man to defeat Brock Lesnar since Cody Rhodes did it at SummerSlam 2023, nearly 3 years ago. At that point, then, you can lead into Brock Lesnar's final match, which will be in Minneapolis in his hometown. It can main event tonight of SummerSlam, and he can take on the Ring General Gunther for a championship he's never won as well. The Intercontinental Championship, if that's as far as you want to go with it, and you can make Gunther the next beast in WWE, which is where then eventually Braun Breaker, as this massive babyface, can tower over Gunther and take the WWE into the next millennium after he's done with the Seth Rollins feud when Seth Rollins comes back after WrestleMania 42 as a babyface. Yes, we're not even 6 months away from WrestleMania 42, but we're already planning SummerSlam 2026 and WrestleMania 43 in Saudi Arabia matches. That's just the way my brain works as a creator. But again, I think there's a lot of interesting storylines here in this scenario with six SmackDown superstars, six Raw superstars, two from NXT, two from TNA as the outside representatives from WWE. The final four being Jeff Hardy versus Drew McIntyre and Gunther versus Sheamus. And Gunther and Drew McIntyre put on a classic at Survivor Series. Gunther goes over, and the ring general walks out of Saturday night's main event, retiring John Cena, becoming the Intercontinental Champion after Cena wins it from Dom at Survivor Series and becomes a massive heel. Like that clip from the Brand's World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand's World podcast right here on YouTube.